Hi folks, today we're going to talk about image resolution and formats. Before we get into it all, first we need to understand what pixels per inch is. It's the resolution of devices and or images. It's measured by pixel per inch, or PPI for short. This is the language or the common language that is used for all devices in order to understand the size of it. When we talk about resolution with PPI, 240 pixels per inch is generally considered high quality. It's ideal for printing. You can have a number that's higher than 240 pixels per inch, but most output devices are only capable of printing at 240 pixels per inch. So it's having more doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be even better. There are instances where 600 pixels per inch is suitable for a project, but those are very special cases. So for the most part, just keeping it at 240 is ideal. 72 pixels per inch is considered low quality, best suited for devices, so such as your handheld, your laptop, a tablet, or a TomTom navigation system on your car. Anything that's an electronic display, 72 pixels per inch is suitable. Digital cameras have two ranges of quality generally. You have a high resolution or low resolution. Some cameras are capable of shooting both. And then desktop scanners and copiers are capable of a customized PPI. So again, if you need a 600 pixel per inch image, scanners and copiers have the capacity to adjust that on the fly, as opposed to digital cameras, you're kind of stuck in either one or the other. If you're in Photoshop, the easiest way to kind of figure out what your resolution of the device is to look right here. It's under image and then image size, and then a dialog box pops up, and this one here indicates that it's 72 pixels per inch. The height is 55 inches high and then 83 inches wide, so it's a little over 4 feet and a little under 8 feet in size. But again, it's a low quality image, so if you were to print this at actual size, you'll start seeing the image slightly decaying or degrading, and the visible difference between a high resolution and a low resolution, it can be seen within the quality and detail within an image. So for instance, in this image here, we have a 240 pixel per inch image. You can, if you were to look at all the nice little fine quality lines, they're nice and smooth. You get to see the details of the edges of this flower right here. You get to see all the little thistles and all the little things just kind of hanging out there. And then if you were to size it down to 72 pixels per inch, this is what you would result in. The lines or the quality, the line quality is very chunky. It's what we call rasterizing on the sides a little bit. It's just a little, just doesn't look all that pretty. If we do a side-by-side comparison, you can see the difference between the line quality and also the color. You also start losing a little bit of color when you have a lower resolution image. Looking up close, you can really notice the details of that difference between the PPI, and then you also notice the file size difference. So if you have a digital camera and you were capturing everything at high quality, it means you would have less images on your memory card. And that's partly because this image here on the left is 17.3 megs, or in other cases, 17,300 kilobytes, as opposed to a 72 pixels per inch, which can, range into hundreds of kilobytes, maybe at the most 1 meg or at the most. But nonetheless, this image over here is about 44 times bigger or more PPI than the one on the right. So it takes up more space on a memory card. So within a digital camera, there's a couple different formats that you get. If your camera is capable of shooting RAW, that is considered a high resolution file. RAW images are not processed by the computer. It could appear slightly dull and flat in contrast. And then the formats are not standardized between camera manufacturers. But ultimately, JPEGs, they're considered low resolution. The data is automatically processed for more pleasant viewing of an image. And JPEGs are standardized as a universal format between multiple devices and manufacturers. You can have, in some instances, on a digital camera, record a JPEG which is high resolution. So that's kind of like the middle ground between a RAW file and a JPEG, small JPEG file. You can have a high resolution JPEG, and you can have 240 pixels per inch for a JPEG. But just keep in mind that all JPEGs are processed for more visually pleasant viewing of an image. So ultimately, what a lot of creatives and designers and photographers really want is the raw image, because ultimately what we can do with a raw image is that since it's may appear flat or in color or slightly under processing, say it in a better way, you can actually make the colors more vibrant and more contrasty, and that is user controlled as opposed to letting the camera do all the controls for you. So ultimately, raw images have a higher capacity to manipulate, because once you have a JPEG, you can't take away and make it flatter that easily without rendering some sort of damage to the image, or doesn't display properly. But again, we talk about raw. Depending on the camera manufacturer, they will designate what is a raw image, and then these are some of the popular ones from different camera manufacturers. If you shoot Nikon or Canon, you'll get it in one of these two formats here. Sony's, these are the raw formats, and these are the extensions at the end of the file. And then if JPEGs, again, they're standardized. You can either see it as JPG or JPEG. And again, it's a universal format, easy to pretty much find in all devices. And then there's a couple other we call digital imaging formats. Oftentimes when you work with a RAW file, it's known as a PURE file, and you can never save over the file. That's the other advantage of a RAW file, is that it is one of those files that you can open, but it will always save it as a alternate version. So that way you're not changing the data on the original raw file. And ultimately, in the computer world, the more you open and close a document, the more that the bits and the numbers all get kind of out of place. And ultimately, if you do it so often, that opening a file so many times can cause it to be corrupted. Raw files can't be corrupted because you're never saving anything to that file. And then when you're working in a raw file, you basically have a choice. So from raw files, you go to TIFF files. TIFF files allow you to have layers. They allow you to have a lossless format, so you don't lose quality. It's ideal for high printing. But the file sizes can be larger. Particularly, you can have layers, meaning that you can actually have control layers to kind of change the image's quality or the visual presentation of the image. And then with JPEGs, you have, again, it's a compressed format. It's ideal for the web. It's small images, and so the workflow would be to capture everything in RAW, do all your Photoshop work and your changes in TIFF, and then export out as a JPEG for your delivery to web media. And then you have your TIFF file that you want to that you can use for any print projects. So you have, again, this kind of funnel effect of quality going from the high res, from RAWs to TIFF, which is also high res, but a work format, and then a JPEG, which is a work format as well. If you have questions, feel free to let me know, and otherwise, thank you.